Hello and welcome to the Love Energetics Podcast. This is the space where science, spirituality, and mindset work come together with the mission of empowering you to reach your full potential and live the life you daydream about. I'm your host, Marea, a scientifically trained intuitive, neuroscience expert, and manifestation coach that shares the knowledge and tools that will ascend you to the highest levels of growth and expansion. If you're ready to leave a life of settling, soul-crushing limitations and playing small, then this is the perfect place for you. It's time to begin your journey of unconditional self-love, effortless confidence, and soul-led success that alchemizes your trauma and ascends you to your highest potential. And with that, let's get into today's podcast episode. All right. And so for today's podcast, this is going to be the first of many, but my first introduction to talking about intuition on this podcast. And if you listened to my first podcast episode of the second season, after I came back from my 6-month hiatus, about where I've been, what I've been up to, you would have heard me talk about how I went through like a spiritual awakening round 2 and how I learned to really develop and connect with my intuition at the deepest levels, understanding it and building it at like a scientific level so that I was able to use it as really like a tool and a skill set and get it to a place where I know it's really accurate and precise. And honestly, I'm really just getting started with that. There is so much more that I'm developing. I'm still, learning and growing more. I really plan to be a master in this work. I have really been implementing so much with intuition, and it is just so much more than what we've really been taught to learn in the spiritual world traditionally and just in life. So I really want to talk more about what intuition really is and how it is so much more than a gut feeling. So that is basically what this podcast is going to be about. I'm going to be talking about the spiritual perspective of what intuition is, the scientific perspective of what intuition is, and because it's not one or the other, it's both, and I'm going to show how those intertwine, how you can use your intuition to completely transform your life and just honestly grow and accelerate. Like I talked about how astrology can help you grow and accelerate, and then intuition is really just even that next level. It's like, oh my God, it's just crazy. I could talk about it forever. So basically, this is all about an introduction to intuition, how it is the language of the universe, and how it's going to also completely change your life. So, because that's what we do on here. We talk about all things to completely change your life in the best way possible and reach your full potential and create the life you daydream about. And intuition is one of the most important things to achieve those things. So that's what we'll be talking about today. The reason I said that your intuition is so much more than a gut feeling is because that's what I feel like the spiritual world defines it as the most. Like, oh, you have a gut feeling like that you shouldn't do something or you should do something, like that's your intuition. That's what I heard, and that's how I hear a lot of people describe it. And that's really kind of the only way I knew how to connect with my intuition for most of my life until my spiritual awakening round 2 this year, when I learned how to really develop it and refine it and expand it to become really, it's like learning another language is really more so what it is. Like I said, it's the language of the universe. So yeah, it's more than a gut feeling, but that's how I always knew it to be. So, and even I was curious. I was like, what if I Google what is the definition of intuition? What is going to come up? And this is the exact definition. If you are watching this on YouTube, you'll see me looking at my notes because I wrote it down. The definition specifically says, intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without recourse to conscious reasoning or needing an explanation. And yeah, okay, it's not like that's a false definition, but oh my God, that's like barely the tip of the iceberg of what intuition is. And so I'm like, yeah, we need to do a podcast episode on this. And especially because I am a scientifically trained intuitive, I do intuitive readings. That is, a big part of the Marea Manifest brand. It's a huge piece in the manifestation process. I want you guys to be able to understand what intuition really is so that you know what I'm doing in the energy readings that you have with me, but also so that you can learn to use it for yourself, of course, as well. And if you do any of my one-on-one mentorship programs or just any even of the one-on-one regular readings I do. I have the Life Accelerator, I have the Love Life Level Up, I have the Born to Be Built to Do. All of those, you will get help and insight into how to connect to your own intuition. But if you really want to learn more about that, then definitely look into the one-on-one mentorship with me, and I can help you connect to that more and just completely open you up to a whole new language, essentially. So yeah, so with that, I'm going to get into it. So yeah, that Google definition is not wrong, but it's like, I talk about how important it is to get like the full picture of thing and not miss any pieces. I mean, that is like 5% of what intuition actually is. And yes, your intuition can totally come through a gut feeling, because that's definitely happened to me, but it's so much more than that. And with that, if intuition is more than a gut feeling, what exactly is it, right? Intuition is a lot of things, but to really sum it up, it's basically the language of the universe. So if you think about it, right, I'm speaking English. I unfortunately only know English. I know a little bit of French, but I wouldn't really say I'm fluent in it. A lot of people either know one language, some people are bilingual and know two, and then there's a lucky few that know like a lot more languages. I feel like that was super common in Europe. When I was in France, like everybody knew multiple languages, but in America, they just don't really motivate us to do that. So a lot of people, I feel like in America, only know one language. But anyway, with that, intuition is like another language, but it's like a universal language in the sense of anything on this planet can speak intuition, and things that aren't on this planet. Anything in the universe can speak intuition. So anything with a consciousness can speak intuition. So it is the universal language. It is like if you only speak English and you wanted to talk to someone in French, like I was just talking about, you guys could both speak intuition somehow and still be able to understand each other by reading each other's energy in a sense. That's kind of how it works. Intuition is like the best possible language you can learn technically. It's a language, and it's also more specifically like it's kind of like your internal compass. It's your inner knowing. It's kind of like your guidance system in a lot of ways. Intuition is a form of communication, either with yourself or with other things with consciousness, other energy. And so going back to that Google definition, it states that intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge, but like, how do you do that exactly, right? And just like I said, intuition is a form of communication, but how does that communication actually work? So the scientific explanation of that basically is kind of going to take you back to, the science, high school science class days. You probably remember learning about matter and like how everything is matter, essentially, because matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Like we talked about, the solids, the liquids, gases, right? So basically anything on this earth has matter. And so I have matter, right? I have matter. I am matter. That tree is matter. That TV is matter. The flowers matter. If you're watching this, if you're not watching this, then I'm just pointing to things around my living room. So because everything is matter, the other piece is that everything that is matter carries light. And so if you're looking at my living room right now, it's very obvious that the TV has light, that the tree has light because it has light bulbs on it, right? But I also have light, and the microphone that I'm talking through has light. It is matter and has light. And so basically everything that takes up space, that is matter, has light. And so the thing about light is that we usually think of light as like the light on this Christmas tree behind me, or the light on the TV, or turning on a lamp, right? It's like you turn on a light to illuminate the room, right? Fire illuminates a room too through a candle. That's typically what we think of light, but light is so much more than that. Light actually carries a lot of information that, of course, is invisible to the naked eye, but you can access the information through intuition. And so taking the scientific explanation a step further, all light has information in it. The other thing that all light has is electricity. Hence, turning on a light, you use electricity for that, obviously. And so All light has electricity. So electricity always emits an electromagnetic field. So that's the other part of this. So we're going deeper into it. And like, I guess if you have some sort of background in manifestation, or, you know, you kind of heard a couple of buzzwords from like mainstream manifestation stuff, right? You hear about, oh, people's energy, or, you know, the vibe of the room feels off, or that person's energy is weird, or they have really good energy. That's like almost unconsciously reading that person's electromagnetic field, aka their energy field. That's kind of like how to explain it, and I'll get more into the spiritual explanation of it too. The lamp that you turn on that has light, it's also emitting electricity through an electromagnetic field that you can't see with your naked eye, but that is energy, and it holds information, and your intuition is the key to accessing that information, which is a bunch of knowledge that typically is inaccessible unless you can speak intuition, right? This language of the universe. So with that, to switch gears to the spiritual perspective, you are able to read energy essentially, right? Like I said, reading people's energy, their energy feels, the vibe, if something's good vibe, bad vibe, whatever. Intuition, you're able to read people's energy, obviously way more than just like, oh, if somebody's vibe is off or whatever. That's like basically your unconscious intuition coming through before you've really developed it. But when you actually develop your intuition, you'll be able to read like way more than that. That's kind of just like, that's kind of that gut feeling thing that we talked about. That's like your intuition comes through in gut feeling, and that's why most people explain it like that, because you haven't developed it yet. So you just get glimpses of your ability to intuit things because you haven't opened up those gifts and developed that at a scientific level and like built your whole skill set around learning that language, right? Because if you were going to be fluent in French, if I were to try to be fluent in French from, you know, the 4 years of French I took in high school, I would need to be really committed to learning and speaking it consistently and practicing, right? Like in order to have the skill set of being fluent in French, I need to be practicing and speaking it and learning and implementing and embodying speaking that language. The same thing goes with intuition, which is why most of us aren't really familiar with how it works or how to use it. So that's kind of that. And then to take it a spiritual step further, you're reading the information in these electromagnetic fields. But what this allows you to do is, you know, with the scientific perspective, you can kind of understand, oh, I could read people's energy. You know, you could read animals' energy, you know, more than just people. You can read animals' energy. I could read this tree's energy, right? This tree is alive. It's drinking water. It has a consciousness. Technically, this microphone has a consciousness. I could read the energy of this microphone, right? Something that might make more sense too is I could, like, a house has energy, a house has a consciousness, a car has a consciousness, right? You can feel that. The scientific perspective shows us about that, but I would say the spiritual perspective goes a little bit deeper in the sense of you also are able to connect with energy fields or electromagnetic fields of non-physical beings. So the main ones being source, which is also God, universe, the higher power, you know, whatever term resonates with you. I kind of interchange them. You know, I sometimes say God, sometimes say universe, sometimes say source. I kind of like them all. So I just use it whenever in whatever capacity I feel like saying it. So you can use intuition to connect with the higher power, to connect with God, universe, source. You can also connect to the energetic electromagnetic field of your higher self, which is you, but like more like connecting with like your soul self you know, the version of you that's not in your physical body, but is still part of who you are. So kind of like, and I can go a little bit deeper, like I can do like a separate podcast episode about that, but your higher self is like kind of like the bird's eye view version of you that doesn't have all the human programming and trauma and things like that. It's more like the most unprogrammed, highest version of you, hence your higher self, you know, the most aligned version of you and who you're meant to be. You can connect with that version. You can connect with that entity, which is you, but you normally can't really access that because your higher self and source don't speak human, You can connect with other people's higher selves too, but you have to do it through intuition because that's the language of the universe, and source and higher self and those non-physical energetic beings do not speak human, so they can't speak to you in English. This is like intro kind of stuff. This is really like the high level introductory kind of stuff. There are so many deeper layers that come with this, but I really wanted to make this more of an introductory understanding of how intuition is so much more than the spiritual mainstream media makes it out to be. And so basically when I'm saying like, oh, you connect to the field of these non-physical energetic beings, it's basically like opening the channel to communicate with them. So when you're connecting to that electromagnetic field, you're opening up the channel to communicate with them. It's almost like literally like giving a phone call to source, giving a phone call to your higher self, or like opening a door and stepping into their office kind of thing. It's like that. That is what connecting to that field really means, basically. So that's a good way to describe it. I can definitely talk deeper about the different ways of communication, the different fields you can read, the different ways to connect, all of that stuff. There's so much more than that. But basically what I really want to drive home in this episode is that intuition is more than a gut feeling. It's the language of the universe. It is your way to communicate with anything that has a consciousness, whether it's another person, reading their energy, reading an animal's energy for that matter, or reading and connecting to source and higher self. So it's a really great communication tool in that regard, but it's also a really great way to connect and read yourself as well. So that is why intuition is also such a powerful tool, not just to communicate with other energetic fields, but to communicate with yourself in your inner guidance and your inner compass. So if you know how to really utilize your intuition, it can really help with your ability to make decisions, so that you're doing something out of a genuine heart want versus like an ego-based desire because you want to prove somebody wrong or somebody did you wrong, or you're doing a career and you think you want to do it but you're really just doing it because you don't believe in yourself to do the thing you actually want to do, or you're doing something to make your parents happy. Like, your intuition can help you kind of distinguish a lot of that stuff. Your intuition can also help you kind of give you the GPS route to where you want to go and where you're meant to be in this lifetime. So when it comes to, like I said, creating the life you daydream about and reaching your full potential, your intuition is an integral part of that. Integral part of that. Very important part, I should say, of that, because a lot of times we don't have all the information that we need to make the best possible decision. We don't always know how to distinguish the good information we're learning from the bad information. We don't always know what is in alignment for us. Maybe something worked for somebody else, but maybe we're built to do something a different way. There's so many different things at the end of the day. Like, we make so many decisions every single day. We take action every single day, and having intuition as your GPS directing you where to go, what's the best route to take. It's like your bird's eye view of what to do, and will also give you clarity on what you're meant to do in this life, who you're meant to be, and if you're in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, or if you're not. It's going to help you feel more fulfilled and understand why you're not fulfilled, or understand where your obstacles are. It's going to help you pull out your limiting beliefs better. Like I talk about, rewiring beliefs in this work all the time. Your intuition is going to really help you pinpoint where that is. So your intuition is just like, I like to describe it as the Sims cheat code to life. I don't know if you ever grew up playing Sims, but there was like that passcode or like some secret code that you could use. Is it called Motherload? It's like coming to me now. The Sims password, Motherload, where you would put it in and you would get like unlimited money to build a house that you want and do whatever, like basically win the game and not have to like settle for a smaller house and make the money and this and that. Like, you had unlimited funds. That's what intuition is in a way. It's like the cheat code. You're able to get places faster. You're able to kind of learn lessons more effectively instead of taking the long way or the more resistant path, or, doing things that you think are going to make you happy and they aren't really. You can really just learn a lot from your intuition in that capacity. So you can use it as a form of communication with other beings, connect to other energy fields. You can read other people, you can connect with source, you can connect with higher self, but you can also really connect with yourself and almost use it as a kind of like a trusted advisor of your life, essentially. That's how I would also look at it. So that's kind of the summary of all the things that intuition is at a very high introductory level. And that is why I have spent the majority of this year in my spiritual awakening round 2, really developing my intuition at the highest levels possible. I'm still going because there is so much more that you could do. I will probably be developing my intuition, forever, right? Continuing to master it, because that's how powerful it is to reaching your full potential and creating the life you daydream about. It's just really, really awesome to be able to understand how life works too. Like, you just understand how the universe and how life works so much more. You're able to really understand what's the truth of things and what's not. It's just really the cheat code to life. So based on the overview I just provided on the spiritual explanation of what our intuition is, combined with the spiritual perspective of what our intuition is, all of this was really, really fascinating to me as I started to learn about it, and it really just helped me better understand the gut feelings that I had gotten throughout my life and why I was getting them. So I just started to, put those missing pieces together. Like I said, how I always talk about, getting the missing pieces and having a cohesive body of information to really help you get the deepest levels of understanding for something. That was what I was starting to get in learning the scientific explanation, learning the spiritual perspective, and really combining the two together. So with that, as I have been, on my journey of mastering the development of my intuition, something I started to kind of realize is that because the language of intuition is, a little bit vague, it's a little bit hard to distinguish, obviously, compared to our typical language, right, of how we speak English, or, how other people speak their native language, right? You can hear the words coming out of people's mouths, but when it comes to intuition, it's much more invisible. It's something we can't really see, and something that we never really grew up learning. So just like if you were trying to learn, say I was trying to really learn French right now, right? It would feel very foreign to me, it would feel very foreign to me. So it would be a big question with French, and then also with learning intuition. Like, am I translating what I'm reading, the information that I'm receiving? Am I translating it right? Or like, say we want to connect to a certain electromagnetic field, like feeling confident that we're connecting to the right field, right? So there is a lot that comes with, it's more than just learning. Like I kind of said before with learning a language, right? You want to put in a lot of the reps. You want to really make sure that you are understanding, you're able to translate, you're getting really fluent and in the language of intuition. And so that does come with, learning from someone who is advanced, who is a master in the work. It comes from working with other intuitives and checking your form and checking your work. Just like if you were working out and learning how to weightlift, if you really were trying to become a master at it, or you were training to be, honestly, take this example because I go to Solid Core and I just got a email about there being training for new Solid Core coaches, right? So if you're training to be an intuitive, so a little bit more than just like learning intuition for yourself, but if you're doing it in a more of a professional capacity, like the way that I do now, just like if you were training to be a Solid Core coach, you would need to, one, be trained by somebody who is already in that type of skill set, and then two, you would be practicing, right? Just like the Solid Core coaches go through a lot of training before they are teaching classes on their own. it is a whole skill set and process that you build. So when we aren't training our intuition and we aren't developing it, a lot of us just go off these gut type of feelings, right? Which, yes, that can be intuition, but sometimes it's not. And so when people say, oh, I have this gut feeling, it could be an intuitive download. Like, there were plenty of times throughout my life where I got intuitive downloads, like, being able to read someone having a negative intention towards me, or being able to know when somebody was lying to me. I even had discovered that my ex cheated on me through intuition. So there are a lot of times when you can get information downloaded to you via intuition without the proper training. But when you don't have the proper training and you don't fully understand it and get that skill set and those reps in on like a scientific level in the way that I was explaining it earlier, those gut feelings that you get may not always be right. They could be a result of trauma, a result of limiting beliefs, or a result of being really emotional. So when you are learning the language of intuition, you have to understand the nuances of when it's intuition and when it's not. And so because I would get those intuitive downloads throughout my life, and I knew how valuable they were, I had always valued my intuition. But when I couldn't really control when they would come in and when my intuition wouldn't catch something, or when I thought I was getting a gut feeling and it wasn't right, I didn't really know how to make sense of that. And so that is why I'm so happy I've been on this journey to making my intuition a scientific process, a skill set, and a tool that I can rely on to be accurate. So by growing up having those intuitive hits and seeing how valuable they were, it is what motivated me and led me to this journey of where I am today, of becoming an intuitive energy reader and being able to build this into a full skill set and going on the journey to mastery, because I am able to see just how life-changing it is for me and how important it is for me in creating my dream life and reaching my full potential. And so that's really what I wanted to share with you today, is why intuition is so important, but also why there's so much more to it than what you typically hear in mainstream manifestation and spiritual type of teachings. Essentially, there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot of ways to make it a true form of communication, a true skill set, and a way to make it actually really reliable and accurate, and not just like you got lucky that the energy lined up and you were able to get this intuitive download, or you do get a gut feeling and you never really know whether to trust it or not. Like, there's just a lot of doubt and things like that. So when you build it like this, you are able to really cultivate the relationship and truly have this trusted advisor, your intuition, to help you get through life in the most effective, impactful, and accelerated way possible. So that's really what I wanted to share today, and that's really also giving you a little bit more insight into my journey and my round 2 spiritual awakening I went through this year, and just also giving you really a little bit more insight into the type of work that I do when I do the energy readings. So if you've ever done a one-on-one with me, or you're interested, this is the kind of stuff that I do. So I'm able to read your energy and provide you information that you may not be able to get because you haven't trained your intuition at this deep of a level yet. You haven't put in the reps and built the skill set and, mastered your form. Kind of think of it like like working out, lifting weights. Like, a personal example I'd say is when I first got out of college, I started lifting weights consistently. It was like the thing that I started doing when I was doing my corporate 9 to 5. I just got into kind of the shell shock of a lifestyle change, right? When you go from college to working your corporate 9 to 5 job, I started to get into a late weightlifting routine along with my new 9 to 5 job routine. And since I was new to weightlifting, I was kind of just like picking up odds and ends, trying out a couple people's workouts here and there. kind of just doing random things without any rhyme or reason. But then it wasn't until I started really learning a lot about weightlifting, really implementing a lot of scientific knowledge of how to actually weightlift in a way that will build muscle, such as progressive overload, the different types of movements, and how, you want to incorporate this type of programming that's going to hit all the parts. Like, for example, if you're doing a leg day, you don't want it to all be quads, right? You want to make sure you're incorporating the right glute movements, and, you're getting the basic knowledge of a form that you're learning from somebody else, but then you kind of test it out for yourself, and you're able to really see, like, oh, based on my body anatomy, if I twist my knee out a little bit more like this, or if I kind of do it at a slight bit of an angle, it's actually hitting the muscle group more effectively. It's just like, it's like that. It's like learning how to weightlift. It's learning how to exercise effectively for you, your body, and getting the results you want. So you have to learn the science of it. You have to learn by taking the action and embodying it, and then you get the results, kind of thing. It's kind of the same thing with intuition in that regard. So because I've put in the reps, I've, really focused on my form, and I continue to do that. I continue to expand my skill sets. You can have access to my intuition in these one-on-one sessions so that I'm able to read these things and help you navigate them, and also help you learn how to do it yourself as well. So if you were to do a one-on-one intuitive reading session with me, I would be able to read your energy, but I would also be able to talk to source, talk to your higher self, and come up with, that blueprint for success based on whatever goal of or area of focus in your life that you're working towards, improving or achieving your full potential in, for an example. So that's kind of how that works, based on like cultivating your own intuition. And then, like, if you were to get an intuitive energy read from me or anybody else, like, that is typically how it would work, to kind of summarize that piece. Aside from making it more precise and accurate, the other thing that you're able to do is you're actually able to turn it on and kind of intend when you want certain answers to come in, versus, with that gut feeling thing, the way that most of us are taught intuition is, you're kind of just waiting for a download to come in and waiting for the energy to line up, versus getting your energy lined up, basically. So that's not really an effective way, right? Because then you don't know, like, if you're looking for an answer on something, you're looking for that intuitive guidance, that trusted advisor, you just have to kind of wait for it to come in. Like, that's not really how you want to live your life, right? That's not really convenient or helpful. That's not going to help you grow at the most accelerated pace, right? You want to be able to control when you can open up that intuitive channel, right? You want to be able to call somebody on the phone, right? Open that channel, or walk into their office to talk to them at your, like, beck and call, right? You don't want to have to wait till they call you. You want to be able to call them. So that's kind of how that works. I would say, just to kind of summarize the episode and this introduction to intuition and how it's the language of the universe, I would just say that building my intuition to be a scientific skill set was one of the best things I could ever do. One of the best things I'm continuing to do. It's really just helping me have an understanding of this inner compass that I've always had within me, but it was really hidden and sheltered for so much of my life. So to be able to break it out, expand it, and develop it, and have this access to it whenever I need it, has been invaluable. And to be able to really distinguish what is my intuition and what's not, what is just like a paranoid feeling, what is a response from trauma or a limiting belief, that I think is a gut feeling, but not really. Like, to be able to tell the difference between that is really, really important for me, so I'm not making decisions based off the wrong things. It's just so cool to be able to access the type of information that I would have never been able to access before. So personally, when it comes to the journey of creating a life you daydream about and reaching your full potential, having access to this type of having access to this type of information, where you're able to talk to your higher self, you're able to talk to source, you're able to get more clarity and confirmation on things this way versus just going about it maybe trial and error or listening to another person's experience and trying that for yourself. Like, this is the best way to really learn what is the right path for you. It's just, again, the best possible trusted advisor you could ever have in your life. And so I am sharing this with you to share, my spiritual journey so that you can kind of see what that looks like, but also to inspire and motivate you to learn to experience intuition for yourself, whether it's through a reading with me or learning how to access your intuition with me, or if it's doing that in another way that you see fit. I just wanted you to see how valuable it is to learn this language of the universe. I would also say that if you made it to the end of this episode and you are resonating with a lot of the stuff that I'm saying, you're resonating with some of the experiences I've had with these gut feelings, then that is a sign that you're meant to cultivate your own intuition. That is a sign that you're meant for more and to learn and expand and grow more into this work. That is the type of nudge that your higher self will give you. If you are curious and you want to learn more and, kind of light you up to hear this type of conversation, that is exactly the type of nudge your intuition is giving you to show you that you are meant to learn this yourself as well. So if you are interested, you got value out of this episode, I highly recommend that you schedule a free alignment call with me. I will include the link in my show notes here, and we can talk through it. We can look into kind of what led you to kind of build the curiosity on this topic, what some of your gut feelings were. We can talk through some of the questions you have, the things that you're looking to navigate, and we can see what the best path forward is for you. So if that is something you're interested in, let me know. And let me know too, so I know this was an introductory kind of episode on intuition. Let me know kind of what specific questions you have based on the scientific explanation, the spiritual explanation, some of the things that I introduced in this episode. I didn't want to go too deep in the details. I wanted to really get the foundation laid out first. So let me know kind of what questions you have as a result of this initial podcast episode, and then we can dive into the deeper layers of intuition from there. So I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope you got value out of it. And, if you want to let me know, leave a comment. I would love to hear it. And again, if you really want to keep hearing more podcast episodes on this topic, then I would love for you to rate the podcast 5 stars, subscribe, give me a follow. That will ensure that this podcast reaches more people, to help more people, but also that I can keep this podcast going, keep providing you this free, valuable content. So that's all that I have for today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, or night, and I'll talk to you soon.